All right, so hi everybody. This is an exciting lecture that we are presenting here at Sony Docs. Most of you know me already. I'm Donna Coriel. I'm the founder of Sony Docs, and right next to me is Dr. Brent Lacey, who is a fabulous gastroenterologist in Texas, and also the host of the podcast, The Scope of Practice. Welcome, Brent. I'm actually going to have you introduce yourself and then hop right into our lecture on SEO. So first of all, welcome and thank you so much for doing this for our group.
Oh, thanks for having me, Donna. I've been looking forward to this for a while, so this is going to be a good time.
Fabulous. We're really excited. All right. So without further ado, we're going to go right into it. The lecture is going to remain up for a while. We do have a big announcement coming up in Sony Docs for those of you that are interested. So stay tuned, and you can access this lecture at any point if you have access to this group, and definitely in our Sony Docs networks. So without further ado, here is Brent Lacey and his presentation.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Donna. I really appreciate it. So when Donna asked me to put this presentation together, it's funny. I've kind of had to learn to do a lot of this stuff myself. I don't know about you guys, but for those of you that are out there doing, either side hustles, or you're trying to grow your practice, or you're trying to just make yourself just a little bit more relevant in your community with regards to your clinical practice, this is a topic that I certainly didn't know a lot about when I started the Scope of Practice about a year and a half ago. And so it has been one of those things that I've kind of had to learn on the fly. And the good news is that it is learnable. That's one of the things that I think is highly relevant. And so when we talked about putting this together, I thought, okay, well, what can I do to put something together that is going to give people really practical, actionable steps that they can do to really optimize their websites for search engine, like strategic search engine, findability. So I'm really excited about this. There's so much stuff that we could cover, and frankly, we don't have the time. So we're going to break this down into two parts. Part one is going to be this presentation, and that's going to be sort of 5 key areas to focus on for search engine optimization that are things that you can do yourself and that you don't have to hire a company for. And then the second thing is, if you look at this link down here, I've put together a few more tips that I just frankly didn't have time to be able to put together for this presentation, because there's just so much great stuff to talk about. But you can download that for free at thescopeofpractice.com/SEO guide. And I'll leave that up for the course of the presentation so you can see that. So let's talk about what is search engine optimization. So SEO, search engine optimization, is the process by which you take your website, each page, each blog post, each article, and maximize the chances that a search engine like Google or Yahoo is going to rank your site highly when someone searches for a particular word or a particular phrase or asks a particular question. So if someone, for example, goes on Google and says, how do I get more followers on my Instagram? Then I would expect that you're going to find Sony Docs being very high, because they've really optimized themselves for Google to find them. And so this is the process by which we do that. And you can do this for your clinical practice, for your side hustle, for your blog, if it's a hobby or whatever. So let me show you the impact of search engine optimization, because I really think this is an important thing. When I first started the Scope of Practice, this wasn't something I knew anything about. I wasn't paying attention. So right here is where I actually started the Scope of Practice. And so what you're looking at here is on the y-axis is monthly web traffic, and on the x-axis is time. And so right there, September of 2019 is when I officially launched. And I think I launched with 25 or 30 different articles, something like 50,000 words that I put on the blog right from the beginning. And then if you look, you can see it's just flatlined for legitimately months. I mean, nobody's coming to see it. And part of that is because it's new, but part of it is because frankly, I just hadn't optimized things. And then in March of 2020, I worked with another physician that had some similar struggles, and he coached me through a few things. And I started reading blogs and listening to online tutorials, and I really started focusing. I went back through every single page and every single article on my website and completely redid them for SEO. And that was when everything started to take off. And so you can see over the course of the next year here, after this point is, it's kind of, steady growth. And then it just started to take off. And so this is definitely something that is doable for you too. I mean, I have absolutely no formal training in this. This is something that I just kind of had to bootstrap. So, and I want you to be able to do that too. So why should we care about SEO? Well, if you're doing SEO for your medical practice, you should know that 90% of patients find their doctors online. I can't tell you the number of times that I have a patient that comes in and they'll say something about, something they read about online, or maybe they found the scope of practice online, or maybe they found my bio, or they found my, previous articles from when I was in the military, and like, oh, my dad was in the Navy, or things like that. People are looking you up online before they come to see you. And a lot of times they make their decision about whether or not to go see a particular physician based on what they read online. So if you're doing this for a blog or for a side hustle or to grow your business or something, then that increased web traffic will expand the reach of your audience, and it will increase your audience size. The more people that can find your content, the more people are going to flock to your business. The more people are going to see you as a thought leader. The more people that are going to see you as an influencer. So getting more eyes on your content is critical, and SEO is one way that you can do that. Another reason is that your competitors really do care. So if this is something that you're doing, something online as a hobby, or something that is just sort of for fun, and it's like, if people find it, that's great. If not, it's okay. It's just for me anyway. Then don't worry about it. But if you're growing a business, or if you're trying to increase your readership, or get exposure for your podcast, or grow your clinical practice, your competitors care about this, and in a lot of cases, they're hiring companies to help them. And so you need to care about it too. And it's achievable. This is something that you can do. This isn't something you have to hire it to be done. I will tell you that, in the last year and a half between starting the blog, starting the podcast, and growing the website, I've had a company that I outsource for doing the actual details of the website, but all the content's been from me, and all the SEO has been from me, and all the podcast editing has been from me, because I've been trying, frankly, to save money on it. And so you can really go down a deep, dark rabbit hole of spending money on this. And if you want to, that's totally fine. But if you'd rather DIY it, we're going to show you some areas of how you can do that. So I picked 5 key areas that we're going to focus on for SEO, and we're going to go through some philosophical concepts, some broad strokes, but also really, really practical information. So I really try to hone this to a few really key pearls that you can do. And these are the same strategies that I've been using for the last year and a half that showed that hockey stick curve that you were seeing. And this stuff just works. It's like Novocaine. It takes a little time, but it will absolutely work. Okay. And like I said, the other pieces of it are in this guide here, the SEO guide. And you're welcome to download that and get the rest of the stuff that we just frankly didn't have time. All right. So number 1, let's talk about your website. So you need a great website. And for starters, what you need something that's clean, it's simple, and it's easy for people to get around. So if you've been to websites before where you just get on and it's just advertisements here and there and everywhere, and it's like, you read or you read something and you're like, okay, I've been staring at this website front page for a minute and a half and I have no idea what they do, then your website needs an overhaul. Okay. So what you need to do is you need to be able to pass what I call the Coffeehouse Test. And so basically, can you show someone your website in a coffee house, random stranger, just walk up and say, hey, let me show you my website for 10 seconds. And then I'm going to close this and you tell me, what's this website about? What does it offer you? And how do you get access to it? And if they can't tell you that after looking at it in 10 seconds, you are losing eyes on your content. So here's the Sony Docs website, and Donna has done a phenomenal job of putting this together. I think this is a really great example of just a simple, clean, easy to navigate thing. So I look at this and I go, the Health Innovator Hub, facilitating rapid connections with today's experts. Okay, so right away, I see this guy with the scrubs. Okay, this is for doctors, people in the healthcare field, innovators, they're thought leaders, disruptors, people who are motivated to learn more, do more. And this website helps me facilitate connections with those people. Great. So if I'm an expert, then I go here. And if I'm someone who's looking for an expert, I go here. That is simple, that is clean, and that is just very, very easy to follow. Here's an example. This one's mine, actually. So very simple here. So you've got just some medical personnel. So obviously it's about healthcare. And right here, manage your practice, master your personal finances. Right away, you know exactly what this is all about. And then people can look and see, okay, blog, podcast, things like that. But keep your website clean. Don't put a lot of just stuff all over the place. Keep it very, very easy. The second thing is great content. And I know Donna talks about this a lot, and you'll see a lot of marketing people talk about this a lot, but no kidding. This absolutely still holds true today. Content is king, or queen, if you prefer. But it is absolutely critical that you get content well, because if you're not writing stuff that people want to read, that answers people's questions, then it doesn't matter how beautiful your website is or how awesome your SEO is. If they navigate to your page and then they go, well, this doesn't tell me anything, they're going to click off it immediately. And so if you don't have great content, then nothing else is going to help you. So you got to start with that as a foundation. And there's a whole page in the SEO guide down here that you can, that'll walk you through a little bit more about how to organize an outline, how to, pick the right headings, how to organize your keywords, things like that. Fast loading speed. So this is kind of a technical thing, but if your website takes more than 7 seconds to load, then this is the statistical average. You will lose 90% of your people if your website takes more than 7 seconds to load. When you think about it, how many times have you done that where you're trying to get an answer to a question, you go to a website, you click it, and it's loading. You're like, never mind, I'll just go to the next one, and you click off it. So, if you have really big image files, if you have really big video files, that can really slow down the loading speed. So find ways to compress some of those things without sacrificing image quality, and that will really, really help. You do want some video. You do want some quality images on your site. Those draw the attention. It helps to break up all the words. Someone sees a gigantic block of text, they're not going to be super enthused about reading it. But if they have some really nice images, or you have a picture that has a caption for it, it's the old saying, right? A picture's worth 1,000 words. And video is the same way. And video has the additional enhanced SEO value that someone watching a video on your site, it means they are spending more time on your site, and the search algorithms reward people who keep people on there longer, because they assume that someone is spending longer learning more, and that means they're getting the answer to the question that they seek. And video can be a really helpful way to do that. Okay, so let's talk about number 2. This is local SEO. So I want to spend just a moment to focus on this, because I know a lot of people are here because they are doing side hustles, they're doing doing side businesses, they're doing coaching, they're doing blogs, podcasts, whatever, and all this stuff will apply. But I want to take just a minute to focus on the local SEO, because I know there's a lot of people that are interested in this kind of thing also for their clinical practice or their primary business. And local SEO, there's a few extra things that you can do that will really, really help you. Okay. The first thing that you have to do as a number one thing is go to Google My Business. And so if you just literally do a Google search for Google My Business, and you can get your business registered. You do have to have a physical location. It can't be a PO box. It's got to be like a brick and mortar location. But the Google My Business thing is, if I Google search, let's say MD Anderson in Houston, then when I pull up the Google search, on the left-hand side, it'll see all the articles that are the highest ranked for MD Anderson, presumably their homepage and maybe some review sites. And then on the right-hand side, you'll see a picture of MD Anderson. You'll see their address, their phone number, their website, their hours. That frame, that section is the Google My Business. And so you have to have that. That is absolutely critical, because you want that to be a primary mechanism for driving people to your clinic or to your business. More than 50% of people get their reviews specifically from Google, and Google is the biggest search engine out there. So you really want to make sure you have this landing spot for people to be able to find you. Very, very important. A second thing that's really important is patient reviews. So on episode 49 of my podcast, we talked about getting patient reviews. And this is just so important. Like I said, upwards of 90% of patients will read about you online, and they're all looking at reviews. I remember 10 years ago when I was in med school looking at this stuff going, this isn't really important. Who cares? People refer from their friends and family anyway. Not anymore. I get self-referrals. Even in GI, I get self-referrals all the time. At least 30% of my referrals are not from community docs. They're from people who just come in off the street because they found my website or because they saw patient reviews. And so if you've got 3 patient reviews and it's like a 2.0 average, you will definitely be losing people. And here's the thing. The rate of people posting something negative to something positive is 11-1. Okay, so if you have for every 11 negative experiences you have, 11, or for every 12 experiences you have, 11 people will be willing to post a negative comment, and only one person will be willing to post a positive comment. Because if you have a positive experience, you got better things to do than go post stuff online usually. So make sure you're asking for patient reviews. Volume really, really helps here. And Google definitely rewards lots of reviews and high stars. Facebook business page. This surprised me when I learned this in this last year. I've been talking to some different marketing folks, and I kind of thought of Facebook as being sort of this outmoded, sort of outgoing kind of a thing, but a tremendous amount of people still use Facebook as a significant source of information, as Donna, I'm sure, can tell you, and specifically for business. So make sure that your business has a Facebook page and you're updating it regularly with pictures and content and links to your blogs and links to your articles and how people can find you and things like that. And then the other big thing is make sure that you are registered on all the third-party review sites. So the Google My Business is the #1 thing. And you can do things like Yelp too. That's somewhat helpful. But make sure that you're getting on the third-party review sites. So like here you see Health Grades and CareDash and Vitals and ZocDoc and Rate My Doc and things like that. So make sure you're on all the really big ones, because different people will go to different sites. And if you just Google your name right now, just run an experiment. Google your name and just see what comes up. Like Brent Lacey, MD. And you'll start seeing on the very first page of Google, half or more of those sites are going to be these health review sites. And so you need to make sure that you're driving patients there, and hopefully they're saying nice things about you, and that'll help you rank higher. Okay, so let's talk about tech stuff. This is for everybody. This isn't just for local SEO. This is if you're doing side hustle, if you're doing, if you're doing business blog, things like that. So let's talk about a few technical things that really help you. So this is sort of the back end stuff. You'll hear people talk about sort of the back end stuff for your website. So a couple things that are really valuable. Google Analytics, hugely valuable tool. I can't tell you how powerful this search engine is. So right here, this is a shot of actually the scope of practice, looking at a period from, let's see, so this is last March to about this March or so. So I just picked a year where you're seeing a lot of growth. And so each of these spikes is a single day's worth of traffic. And so what you're seeing here is, like, here was a big spike when I had an article that got picked up by one of the big physician blogs, but then it didn't translate into a lot of sustained growth here. Not until later do you start to see it. And so you see a few big spikes here, but what you want to see is you want to see the gradual trend up, kind of like the stock market. You want to see generally going up. You have some ups and downs, but generally moving in the right direction. This can be very helpful to show you some big trends, and you can break this down by week, by year, by month. You can also see what your referral channels are. So if you look at this, the dark blue here is organic search. And so initially, this is all lighter blue. This is direct and social media right here. But then as you start to see, as I'm focusing more on the SEO last year, then the dark blue becomes the majority of it. So I'm actually getting a lot of people just randomly bumping into scope of practice because they're searching for something that Google thinks I can answer based on SEO. And so that can be very, very helpful to see where is your traffic actually coming from. Another thing that's hugely helpful is to see what pages are people actually interacting with. So if you go on and search for the last week, the last month, the last 3 months, and you can see, okay, these are my top 5 pages. Well, one of the things that's really valuable is to make sure that those are maximally optimized. Do you have lead magnets that you're trying to get people to? Do you have a business proposition or something you're trying to sell on? If people are on those pages, make sure that you've got opportunities for them to intersect with those kinds of opportunities. So if you're trying to sell an online course or something and your top 5 pages, only 2 of them even have links to your online course, go back and make sure that you've got links to those courses on the pages that people are actually looking at. So Google Analytics, and it's free, very, very helpful tool. Another thing that's very important, make sure that your site is mobile friendly. Now, most of the time, if you have just a plain old WordPress website, most of the time, or Wix or something, it will optimize everything for you. But make sure that when you publish a blog post or publish an article or create a new web page, make sure that you've looked at what it actually looks like on the phone. So I know for my traffic, my web traffic, something like 60 to 80% of my web traffic at any given time is on the phone. And in some cases it's higher. And so if you know that the majority of your people are looking at your content on your phone, and you go and you look at your website, you're on the phone and you go, oh my gosh, it's teeny tiny print. It didn't get optimized. It didn't get blown up. It doesn't have easy drop-down menus. You're going to be missing out. So make sure your site is mobile friendly. Okay, so 2 plugins I want to tell you about. These are the most helpful plugins, and they're both free. I love these plugins. So I use WordPress, so I can't speak to Wix, but I would surmise that they have similar plugins or even the same plugins for those platforms. Pretty Links is, I think, one of the best plugins that you can get. Everybody needs to have this plugin, and it's totally free. There's a paid version, I believe, but just use the free version. It's really fine. So a Pretty Link is a link like this. So thescopeofpractice.com/SEO guide, right? That is super easy to remember, as opposed to what the original one was, which if you look at the permalink, so the actual full link is thescopeofpractice.com/S-E-O-strategies-4-physician, something like that. It is an incredibly cumbersome thing that you couldn't possibly share with somebody and have them remember it on, say, a podcast episode or in an online interview or something. And so what the Pretty Links plugin allows you to do is take a long form link, and it can even be something like, let's say you're referring someone to your Amazon store or Amazon Associates, and it's this crazy 75 character thing with ampersands and pound signs and numbers. You can reduce all of that to a very simple Pretty Link. And so you have this whole thing from Amazon Associates, and you just say, website/ book sale or something like that, right? It's very, very easy. So that is a hugely valuable thing for you to have, because it allows you to be able to very easily give people websites that they can remember, and that really helps drive people to you. The second one that you really want to get is Yoast or something like it. So Yoast SEO, and again, I have just the free version. There's a paid version, but the free version is actually really good. The Yoast plugin will actually do some search engine optimization for you. So when you go, and I go into this in a lot more detail in the guide, so make sure you get the guide, because it'll have actual like screenshots and things that you can look at. But when you look at the Yoast SEO plugin, the thing that's really nice about it is that down at the bottom is it'll have red light, yellow light, green light to show you good or bad in terms of how your search engine optimization. And it'll give you specific suggestions, and it'll say, all right, so you're still in the intermediate zone. Maybe make your keyword more prominent in your title, or you need to have more links in your post, or make sure you add some images. And it'll give you suggestions of things that you can do. And honestly, that's exactly how I started a little over a year ago doing my SEO. Is I literally went through every article and said, okay, what did the Yoast plugin tell me that I need to do? And I just did all of that. I mean, that was all that I did for the very first step. And it gave me huge growth, huge dividends already with that. So that is a plugin definitely worth having. Another thing you should definitely try to get more of is backlink. So a backlink is when you have a website. So let's say I have a website like Sony Docs, and then I, as the scope of practice, link to Sony Docs on my website. And so I have a page where I talk about, let's say, the podcast interview that I did with Donna, which you should all go listen to because it's amazing, because Donna's amazing. But I have a link to that, to Sony Docs on my website. Well, the Google search engine and other search engines recognize that, and they say, oh, okay, so I've got all these other websites that are linking to Sony Docs. They think that Sony Docs is really worthwhile. They really think that Sony Docs can answer their questions, and they reward that, and you tend to bump up higher in the rankings. So there's a lot of ways to do this. You can do backlink swaps with people. If you're a blogger or a podcaster, you offer to review maybe their podcast and they offer to review yours. You put a link on each other. You can do paid versions of this, and I've seen lots of people buy paid versions. I've always been pretty squeamish about that, because I don't know. It's not unethical or anything, but I just prefer the organic approach personally. And if you just write really great content that you provide to people and you show people, or you put guest posts on people's articles, and they let you put some backlinks in there, I'll offer to write a whole article for someone else's website and put a few backlinks in there. It's a win-win for both of you. Okay, so number 4. Now this sort of found a way to get into SEO, but I really think this is critically important for you, is building an email list. The thing to recognize is that search engine optimization, it isn't just about SEO for SEO's sake. Okay, what you want is people to increase the likelihood that they're going to come and look at your website and stay on your website, and then it's got to translate to something, right? So if people are just coming and reading and leaving, then you're not really doing anything. So what you want to do is start to capture some emails. Okay, so start building a list of followers where you own the distribution to the communication apparatus. So for example, if you have a Facebook group and that's the only way that you can communicate with people, what happens tomorrow if Facebook decides this group is violating our policies, or we're going to massively restrict the algorithms and make it harder for people to find posts from Facebook groups? Then it has completely undercut your communication strategy because you don't own that means of distribution. So building an email list where you have the ability to directly communicate with your followers and your readers and and your audience anytime that you want is absolutely crucial. And so in the SEO guide, I go into that in a lot more detail, but it's really easy. It's really easy to do. Just pick an email service provider. Like I use ActiveCampaign, but ConvertKit, MailChimp, HubSpot, any one of those, and just start capturing emails. And so there's really easy ways that you can put forms on. So for example, you can put they call them forms on your website where it has a link to something that a person can download, let's say. So if you look over here, these are some examples of some of the lead generators that I have. So free PDF guides that I've written that I just give away to people for free. And so they put in their email, and then my ActiveCampaign service provider will then send them the PDF guide in an email. So now I have their email address, and it allows me to directly communicate with them. And so if I have more blogs or more articles or more content that I think would be relevant to them, then I can share that. And it's hugely helpful. Also, if you have a big email list, let's say you have an email list of 1,000 people, which would be pretty big for a blog. If you've got an email list of a couple thousand people and you send out an email once a week, and even 25% of your followers open an email and go and navigate to the blog, which is pretty decent. That would be actually quite high. Then that's 500 people that you're automatically sending to your blog right there. Well, that's huge because Google recognizes, oh my gosh, there's this huge flock of people going to this website, and it starts to rank you even higher. And so if you haven't started already, start now. Okay. The best time to start an email list is right when you're starting your business. And the second best time to start is today. Okay. So if you haven't started this, get on ActiveCampaign, get on MailChimp, get on ConvertKit. Almost all of them have either free versions or very inexpensive versions for when you have very small amounts, small numbers of emails, and just start learning and start capturing it. It is absolutely crucial. I really think this is important. Every page on your website, every article, every post, they all need to have a form that can get people onto your email list. There's a great podcast that I like to listen to called Online Marketing Made Simple, or Online Marketing Made Easy. Now I can't remember which one it is, with Amy Porterfield. And this is something that she harps on a lot. I really think that she's right. That you need to be about building your email list, because like I said, you need to own your distribution. And so every article should give people an opportunity to subscribe to your email list. And maybe you have a newsletter, maybe you have one of these lead generators, or and it can be a PDF guide, or it can be an online video course, or whatever, but something that you give people that has value to them, that they're willing to exchange their email for. And that really, really becomes important. Okay. And then the fifth one that I really want to spend a few minutes focusing on this is absolutely crucial. Okay. This is the bedrock of search engine optimization, is keywords, keyword research. I can't emphasize enough how critically important this is. So let me define keyword for a quick second so you really understand what this means. So a keyword is a word or a short phrase that is a single entity that the search engines recognize as a searchable collection of words. Okay. And so, for example, a keyword could be something simple like physician, or it could be a simple phrase like doctors on social media, or it could be a complex phrase like female minority physicians in social media, or something like that. And so you can get progressively more and more complex and more niche. But these are the individual units that that search engines will actually try to rank for. Because what happens is people will start asking questions online and say, how do I find an orthopedist in Dallas? And so orthopedist in Dallas is going to be a keyword. And so Google starts looking for different articles that reference orthopedists in Dallas, or maybe leg pain, fix my leg pain, near me, or local OBGYN or something like that. And so you can use a program like SEMrush, Ahrefs, or Ubersuggest, or just a few that I know of. I personally have used SEMrush, but I've only ever used the free version of it, believe it or not. So one of the things that's really nice about these companies is that a lot of times they'll have like a free 1-week trial, or very cheap. It's like 7 days for $7 or something like that. So one of the things that you can do is you can use these websites and use their free trial, spend a week or 3 days or however long they give you, and spend like 15 hours doing keyword research and really mine these websites for keywords that are high volume and low competition. And that will give you opportunities to rank for things that nobody else is ranking for. It massively increases your potential for getting people to you. So a high quality keyword is going to be something with a lot of people looking for it. So high search volume and low competition. And so social media is not going to be a good keyword for you to try to rank for, okay? Because it's going to have high search volume and it's going to have a billion blog view or a billion articles and websites on it. But say female minority physicians on social media, now we're getting a lot more specific, a lot more niche. That may not have very high search volume, but it's probably got very low competition. And so that could be potentially a good place that you can start, is as you start to narrow down and find these diamonds in the rough, these keywords that people are looking for the answer and nobody's got an article out about it. So one of the key things you want to know is that you want to have a single page for any keyword you want to rank for. So let's say you're an orthopedist. You want to have a page for hand surgery in Atlanta. You want to have a page for foot surgery in Atlanta. You want to have a page for leg pain. You want to have a page for knee pain. You want to have a page for joint pain. So each page needs to be optimized for you to try to rank for that keyword, because you're not going to be able to rank for every single keyword. The more times that you optimize a page, the more pages you have. It's like buying more lottery tickets. One of these is going to start to break through. So let's look at a couple of specific things, and then I'm going to show you some screenshots from SEMrush to give you a little bit better idea of what this would actually look like practically. So what I did when I was first starting out is I got a 1-week free trial for SEMrush, and then I just started doing really in-depth keyword research and trying to find those keywords that have high volume and low competition, very few results, and they are hard to find. Okay. So one of the ways that you can start is by researching the keywords that your competitors use. So let's say that you are a family practice doc in Chicago. So just Google family practice in Chicago and go to the first 15 web pages that come up, and go into SEMrush, go into Ahrefs or one of those SEO companies, and just input their website, and it'll show you these are the keywords that that your competitor is ranking for. Okay, so you can then research those keywords and use those as your starting point for things that if your competitors are ranking for them, you want to be ranking for them too. And so let me show you what this is going to look like practically speaking. This is a screenshot from SEMrush, and I don't have any affiliate relationship, but I've used them for free and they work really well. So what you can do, so this is a screenshot of my website, thescopeofpractice.com. And if you look, it's got organic research highlighted. So all I did is I put in my website and went to this organic research and then clicked on positions, and it's showing me for this particular day, it's showing me pages that I'm ranking highly for. So sports medicine doctor is position number 3. Scope of practice is position number 2. How to become an anesthesiologist is position number 6. You really want to be on that first page of Google for it to translate into meaningful web traffic for you. Okay, so do this same process for all of your competitors and write down each one of these keywords. And then what you're going to do next is you're going to go to keyword overview. So now you've got a whole bunch of keywords. And let's say you're doing a finance blog. So you have retirement and money and personal finance and Roth IRA and all these different things. And, get a couple hundred keywords. Okay. And then you're going to go to this tool here. This is keyword overview. And so you go to keyword overview and put each individual keyword into it and see what are the keyword variations that are coming up, and then what's the volume and the results. So here's an example of really great search volume. So global volume is 2,700. In the United States is 480. So that's pretty good search volume. This is per month. This is pretty solid. And then results, 203 million. This is for the keyword physician leader. That is a lot of results. And so the higher the number of results you have, the harder it is going to be to rank for it. But then you can start to look at some of these keyword variations here. So lead physician associate, lead physician assistant, lead physician phone number. Can you lead to a physician assistant? So there's lots of ways that you can get these keyword variations. And what you're looking for is that high volume, low results, diamonds in the rough. And, you may find it's only 1% of all the keywords you search. This is a little bit of a numbers game. So then what you can do is you can go to this tool. This is a great tool. Again, this is SEMrush. So we don't have time to go through like Ahrefs and all the others, but this gives you just a basic idea. So you go to Keyword Magic tool here, and then you can go in and say, let's say for this one, I searched medical podcast. And so I look and I see, okay, so medical podcasts has a search volume of 1,600. Okay, that's pretty good. And I come over here to results and it says 0. Now, something is wrong here because honestly, I don't know why it's 0, but the search engine optimization company calls these false positives. So it may mean that there's just either so many that they can't that they just can't rank them all, or it may mean there's some kind of a glitch. But that one's not going to really work for you. Medical Medium podcast, 38 million. All right, that's too much. But then you come down to this one, Praying Medic podcast, 235,000. Okay, now we're getting a little bit closer. So your magic numbers that I found to be valuable, you want a goal volume of at least 100. Anything less than 100 searches a month, and it's just not really worth your time. If 10 people are looking for it, you're spending too long trying to catch one person. And the goal results, goal competition should be less than 500,000. That seems to be the sweet spot. And so keep doing these in-depth analyses, find these different keywords. And then by the end of this free week that you've got a spreadsheet that you can just start writing articles about. And so let's say you've got an article about physician leaders in America. And so you write an article, and then you've got 7 more that are you've picked up from your keyword research. Each one of those keywords is the title of an article. So let's say physician leader. So 9 things that I can do as a physician leader to grow my business. Right there. Okay, I've got an obvious title that I know exactly what people are gonna look at that and see. Okay, here's what we're really talking about. This is about being a physician leader. It's 9 things that I can do. That ought to be something I can skim and just see which ones I can do. And then it's got the keyword actually in there, and that's what Google is going to be looking at. So now you're just going to start writing. So, and this is where it comes down to, once you've got your keywords, just start putting some of those articles together. And so you're looking for those high volume, low competition results. And if you find, say, 20 or 30 of those in a week's worth of research, that's 20 or 30 great blog posts or articles that you can write and maximize them for SEO. And, you will get web traffic from that. I'm telling you, it really, really works. So, like I said, we don't have time to go through everything that there is. I mean, there are legitimately companies that do webinars on this kind of thing every single day. So I packed in a few more tips in this guide that you guys can download if you want at thescopeofpractice.com/SEO guide. And it'll walk you through, the Yoast plugin, how to maximize your SEO using a checklist, how to craft a perfect title, things like that. So these are all really, I hope, very helpful, very actionable tips that you can do. And I look forward to seeing all of the amazing things that come out of the physicians that are starting to optimize their websites. I think the more that we can make it easier for people to find us, the more likely people are to find our content. And trust me, your voice needs to be heard. It's one of the things that I love about Sony Docs and Donna is working so hard to amplify physician voices. And hopefully this gets you just a little bit closer to that goal. So thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it. Feel free to download this guide anytime. And I hope this was helpful for you.
It was very, very helpful for us. So I definitely appreciate you coming on here, Brent, and doing all the research that it takes to put this together. So Thank you. I am sure that you will get questions. And if you're watching this, if you have any questions for Brent, then you can post them below. He will get tagged and he will see this, since I'll actually tag him in the post so that he gets it. And I'm sure he'll be happy to help out because he's fabulous. And he's also does his own sort of consulting, and he's growing in that direction as well. So he's going to be fantastic. Let's just take 2 questions because I do see that there's a question or 2. Let's do 2 questions. Well, actually, this is something I can answer is, can we see this presentation later? Yes, you can watch this presentation later. It will be in the big Seo Docs group. You can absolutely watch it. We have a separate group that is growing that's called the Seo Docs Networks. You can watch it there anytime. It's also, being live streamed there as well. There is a very big announcement coming up about the future of Seo Docs and exactly how we're going to grow. But in the interim, everybody that's here can still access what Dr. Brent Lacey has just given us in terms of a lecture. So very exciting about that. And then lastly, has anyone hired anyone, i.e. on Fiverr, to help optimize SEO? You know what? I'm going to answer it after you, Brent. You want to go first?
Yeah. So I've never personally used Fiverr or Upwork for anything. Like I said, I've been doing the DIY thing. I mean, but recognize my background. I came from 7 years of teaching Dave Ramsey's finance university at my church. I tend to be very debt averse, and so most of my stuff has been about trying to save money, trying to bootstrap it. So personally, I have not. But I will tell you that yes, you can find good people. But what I would strongly encourage people to do is, before you hire someone to do it, try this yourself. Just write 10 articles, 10 blog posts, or put 10 web pages together for your site and maximize the SEO yourself. It will do several things. One is it will help you write better articles that are more optimized from the beginning. The second thing is it'll help you get the knowledge you need to ask the right questions to be able to discern who on Fiverr is actually pretty good versus who is really not worth paying the money for. And then the third thing is it's kind of a test balloon. You can decide, okay, is this something that I really want to spend the time and the energy and maybe the money on? And if you get through 10 articles and you're like, yeah, this isn't really worth it, I for sure don't want to hire anybody to do this, I'm just going to do this. That's money. That's time very well spent and very well saved.
I love that. I'm actually also very much of a do-it-yourselfer. I think Brent knows this because Brent knows me. So I too want to save money, but I think something that we need to look out for as physicians online is that there's a lot of over-promising online and under-delivering. And that's what you're going to find is SEO optimization takes a ton of work. There are little steps you could take that Brent has touched on that could just make all the difference in the world. But to hire out a company to sort of optimize your SEO can be super pricey. And the results are not always there. And so a lot of times you're going on Fiverr and you're paying very little, but you're also getting very little results. So there's a lot to say for do it yourself, because honestly, it, like he said, can teach you how to do it better, and you're in control. So you can always go back and sort of tweak things as opposed to just paying out for someone else to do it and then not having them deliver. And then it was sort of like a waste of your money.
The other thing that I would suggest is if you really are thinking about hiring somebody, I tend to be a big fan of known quantities. So if I'm referring someone to a mechanic or a physician or, a cook or a restaurant or something, I want to have someone with personal experience. So I think one of the best things that you can do is if you're looking to hire someone for SEO or web development or whatever, instead of just going straight to Fiverr and just hoping you get lucky, I feel like that's like getting a random roommate in college. Maybe you get lucky and it's your best friend for life, or maybe it's, the creepy guy who has, the hemp plant in the corner or whatever. And so instead, find people that that are you're friendly with, or ask people in groups online, hey, who do you guys use for SEO? Who do you like? Who's great? And go with that. Get a personal recommendation before you just go randomly shotgunning through Fiverr and Upwork.
I like that, but can I just add a little caveat in there? The problem I'm having with that is a lot of recommendations are now based on affiliates, and the people don't make their affiliates known. I have a big problem with that, meaning they'll recommend someone with their affiliate link, but not say it's an affiliate link, or that they have. And again, it's a whole different world out there than what we're used to as doctors, where you have to sort of disclose. So if there's no disclosure and you're recommending, and then you're recommending it because you're getting a kickback, then that's an issue. So I'm just kind of putting that out there, because I've had people that have come to me and said, well, I used whatever and I'm not happy, but it was because of X, Y, and Z. So again, I think that Brent touches on a great point, that use people that others have had experience with, or check out their work for yourself to make sure that it actually is legit. I guess it's easier to do when you're like having a website built, because you could just go and sort of visually see that it's a great website, versus SEO is a little bit harder to prove.
Yeah, that one's definitely tougher. So personal recommendations can be very helpful. And you can also just hire people on a trial basis and say, tell you what, why don't you do SEO for these 2 blog posts and this one web page on my site, and here, let's do it for whatever, $100, $200, whatever they charge, and let's just see what it is. And if you don't like it, and if you figure out, I don't think this really did much for me, then you're not out that much money. It's discipline.
Yeah, I love that. That's actually great advice. And also just budget conscious, is that you don't have to then commit. You could just kind of figure out if it's worth it for you, and then you could shell out the money if you see that there are results, et cetera. Although I will say that a lot of times SEO optimization does take a while. And so you may, like a lot of companies will tell you they won't let you hire them for very short periods, because they want to prove to you that they could do it. So it's going to take a few months, et cetera. All right. So Dr. Lacey, thank you so much. Oh, they're asking one last question, because this is great, because it amplifies you. How can they download your book? Do you have a book?
I don't have a book, but you're welcome to download the guide, the scope at the scopeofpractice.com/SEO guide. And if you want to check out the podcast, that's probably the best place to get really outstanding, up-to-date content. We've got great interviews on business management, leadership, personal finances, marketing. Donna's been on twice because, she's awesome. And so lots of great stuff. So you can go the scopeofpractice.com/podcast to find that.
Love it. When we're done, why don't you just go to this in Sony Docs and just write the link, and then people could just click and make it easy peasy. Brent, this has been fabulous. Everybody loved it, I could see, and you are just fantastic. I'm looking forward to seeing what other things you engage in and how you grow. It's going to be great.
Oh, thanks, Donna. This was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. And everybody who's watching, thank you for tuning in. And I hope that you get to watch this afterwards as well, because we're going to leave it up. Have a fantastic rest of your day.